Breaking
Adoptive
news.
parents of 3 children are in jail today after Kanawha County deputies said 2 teens were found locked inside a barn. Hannah Klein breaks down the investigation after deputies say they received a 911 call from someone concerned about the kids.
A stunning find in Sissonville has led to the arrest of 2 adoptive parents.
You're being charged with a felony, child neglect, creating risk of injury.
Donald Lantz and Jeanne Whitefeather now in jail as their children are now with CPS. It started on Monday when deputies got a call just before 6 o'clock in the evening. The 2 children were being locked in a barn at this home on Cheyenne Lane in Sissonville.
They weren't able to locate any guardians or parental figures or anybody around the residence or the barn, and started having a conversation with 2 children that were inside the barn.
Deputies eventually forced their way into the barn, where they said they found a 16-year-old girl and 14-year-old boy inside a 20 by 14-foot room. Investigators say the teens had no way to get out of the shed, with no running water, no bathroom. The girl told deputies their parents had brought them food around 6 o'clock that morning, but said her and her brother weren't allowed in the house and were locked in the barn for long periods every day. Eyewitness News spoke to neighbors who were afraid to go on camera, but claim multiple families called police about the children's safety several times, and they are thankful they are now safe.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty bad case. I mean, it's you know, in any type of situation like this, it's not really comparable. A horrific condition, like, it's just not how you want or how you would even expect children to be raised or been taken care of.
Lantz and Whitefeather eventually showed up at the home. They're now charged with child neglect, creating substantial risk of injury. The mother admitted the children were left in the shed, but reportedly told deputies they, quote, liked it.
They're trying to, you know, get the children back in better living conditions, better placement, and the detectives will continue to investigate and build this case.
In Sissonville, Hannah Klein, Eyewitness News.
The Sissonville couple accused of human trafficking and forced labor were back in court today. This is the case where Donald Lantz and Jeanne Whitefeather were arrested after deputies found their adopted teens locked in a barn last fall in Sissonville. But as Anna Saunders explains, today's hearing was focused on their financial situation as prosecutors consider some of their money illegal.
That's right, Gina. As new charges of human trafficking, forced labor, and civil rights violations stacked up against Whitefeather and Lantz, so did their bond amount, as they are now back in jail on $500,000 cash bonds each. But the matter addressed in court today was about the first bond they posted when they were able to put down $400,000 cash back in February. This raised red flags with the prosecution, as they believe that money is contraband and are now looking to have it turned over to the state. It's the prosecution's ultimate goal to seize the $400,000 that Whitefeather and Lantz posted for bond in February. The argument is that bonds were paid by selling homes in Washington state and in Sissonville, where human trafficking occurred. But what happened today is Kanawha County Chief Circuit Court Judge Mary Claire Akers signed a protective order for that money, meaning it must stay with the sheriff's office until the courts decide if it will be seized or not.
We're not trying to forfeit the money without due process. We just want to protect it and preserve it until we've had a chance to litigate the claim.
A 16-count indictment was recently returned against Lantz and Whitefeather, going far beyond their initial charge of child neglect. Investigators now say the couple sought out and adopted 5 black children from a shelter, targeting them for their race to do forced labor. The complaint said Lantz and Whitefeather first had them at this 80-acre ranch in Washington state and then moved to the Sissonville home. This is where deputies, while doing a welfare check last fall, found 2 teenagers locked in a barn in what investigators called deplorable conditions. After they were arrested, the 2 sold the Washington home for about $700,000 and the Sissonville home for about $300,000. Prosecutors believe they used that money for bond. Now, with this $400,000 now protected, it can't be used at all right now while the protective order is in place. But if the state wins out in this and the forfeiture is granted, it could possibly be treated like drug seizure money, where percentages go to arresting agencies and the prosecution, or it is common for human trafficking money to go to the victims, which in this case would be the kids. All of that pending how this plays out in court alongside the criminal investigation.